You've been in this situation before. A meeting, a classroom, a group chat, and suddenly, something feels off. You speak, but no one hears you. You make a point. Someone else repeats it, and they get the credit. You laugh along when they joke at your expense, even though it stings. And slowly, without ever raising their voice or breaking a rule, someone is winning over you. Not with fists, not with arguments, but with something far more subtle and far more effective. These are master suppression techniques, psychological tools used, consciously or not, to silence, belittle, and control, used by bullies, bosses, classmates, even so-called friends. But once you can see them, you can stop them. Let's break them down, and more importantly, show you exactly how to fight back. It doesn't start with yelling, it starts with silence. You speak, and no one looks up, like you were never there. This is one of the most subtle forms of control, making invisible. It doesn't hurt you. It erases you, and it works because of a simple truth. When people don't respond to us, we start to doubt we exist in the room. We shrink. We hesitate. We censor ourselves before anyone else has to. But why do people use this? Sometimes it's strategic, a power play to shut down competition without confrontation. Other times, it's unconscious bias, ignoring someone because of gender, race, age, or just because they don't look like authority. And in group settings, people follow attention like a spotlight. If the room tunes you out once, it becomes easier and safer for others to do the same. Psychologically, being ignored activates the same pain centers as physical injury. The brain treats social invisibility like a threat, and we respond by freezing, retreating, or giving up, which is exactly what makes it so effective and so dangerous. But here's the turn. What if, instead of retreating, you did the one thing the technique tries to prevent? You make yourself visible. You don't lash out. You don't apologize. You simply say, "I'd like to finish my thought." Or if someone hijacks your point, "I'm glad you agree." You say it not with spite, but with calm certainty, like someone who belongs in the room. Ridiculing. Being ignored hurts, but at least it's quiet. Other times, the attack is louder, and it comes wrapped in laughter. Imagine a scenario where you are with a group of friends at a cafe. You say something honest, maybe even a little vulnerable. One of them snorts. "Wow, you really overthink everything, huh?" The others chuckle. Suddenly, you're not having a conversation anymore. You're the punchline. Welcome to ridiculing. It doesn't always sound cruel. Sometimes it's playful, charming, just a joke. But the effect is surgical. It turns your words, you, into something silly. Not to be taken seriously. Not to be listened to. This works because humor lowers defenses. We're social creatures. We want to belong. So when laughter targets us, it's hardwired to sting. In psychology, this is a dominance tactic. Laughter becomes a weapon. It signals, "You don't control the frame? I do." People use ridicule to regain power, silence dissent, or mask insecurity by putting someone else below them. And worst of all, if you react, they say you're the one who can't take a joke. But here's how you take the frame back, without turning the room into a battlefield. You pause. Let the laughter die on its own. Then calmly ask, "What exactly was funny about that?" You're not accusing. You're just putting the spotlight back on the person who threw it. Or you might say, "I think this matters to me, so I'd appreciate if we could talk about it seriously." The key is, don't join the joke to keep the peace. Hold your ground, with clarity, not anger. And if you're not the target, use your voice. "Hey, I actually thought that was a good point. Let's hear them out." You become the disruption in the cycle, because mockery thrives in silence, but it shrivels when someone just doesn't laugh. Withholding information. You can't contribute to a conversation you were never invited to. But what if that's the point? Some suppression hides behind jokes, but others hide behind silence, the kind that feels intentional. You're in a meeting, and someone says, "As we discussed yesterday," you weren't there, you weren't told. Decisions are made, deadlines set, and somehow you're expected to follow, without ever being shown the map. This is withholding information, not telling you things that matter, so you can't participate, contribute, or compete. Sometimes it's direct. You're excluded from the email thread. Other times, it's subtle. Vague instructions, missing context, being forgotten in meetings. The result is the same. You're always one step behind. This works because information is power, and in any hierarchy, school, work, politics, keeping someone in the dark limits their ability to act. It's not always malicious. It can come from disorganization, favoritism, or gatekeeping. But over time, the pattern sends a message. You don't need to know. You don't need to lead. And we internalize it. We stop asking questions. We fake understanding. We become passive. But here's the shift. You make information your mission. You start by asking directly, "Can I be looped into that conversation? Could you send me the notes from the meeting?" Ask not like you're begging for scraps, but like you're claiming what should have already been yours. You also build lateral support. "Hey, just checking. Have you heard anything about the project?" You tap into your network to bypass the gatekeepers. And most importantly, you model what others often don't. Transparency, inclusion, clarity. You share what you know. You pull others in. Because when you give information away, you make yourself impossible to exclude. Double bind. Being ignored hurts. Being mocked bruises. Being left out disorients. If invisibility makes you disappear and silence keeps you out, this next move cages you. It lets you speak, but ensures whatever you say is wrong, even your best move. You're presenting a group project. You've done most of the work. Speak confidently. You're called bossy, controlling. Let others lead. You're lazy, uninvolved. Say something. No matter what you do, you lose. That's a double bind. A psychological cage made from contradictory expectations. You're forced to choose between two roles, both punished. And whichever you pick, your critics feel vindicated. This isn't accidental. In social psychology, double binds are used to disempower, especially against people who don't fit the dominant mold. Women, minorities, neurodivergent thinkers. It works because humans crave coherence. And when that's denied, we blame ourselves for the confusion. We rehearse regret in advance. We ask, was I too much? Or not enough? It's emotional gaslighting, built into behavior expectations. So how do you fight a no-win game? You name it. In that same classroom, next time you're called too intense, you might calmly say, I'm noticing that when I lead, I'm called bossy. But when I step back, I'm seen as passive. Which is it you'd prefer? This breaks the spell. You're putting the contradiction into words, and that forces others to confront it. You can also document feedback, track what's expected, what was said, what was done. If the contradictions pile up, you now have a map of the trap. And above all, remember, double binds aren't about you, they're about control. And once you see them clearly, they lose their grip. Putting to shame. If double binds confuse your mind, shame goes straight for your soul. You bring up a boundary, maybe about your time, your space, your needs, and suddenly you're ungrateful. You're selfish. You've made someone feel bad. You're not debating facts anymore. You're on trial for how your existence made someone uncomfortable. This is heaping blame, or putting to shame. The goal isn't resolution. It's emotional dominance, to make you feel so bad about even standing up for yourself that you never do it again. This works because shame is one of the most powerful social tools we have. In early human history, shame meant exclusion, exile. We're wired to avoid it, so people use it to weaponize morality, implying, you're the problem. Not because of what you did, but because of who you are. And when blame is public, the effect doubles. It becomes social punishment, reinforced by silence and side eyes. But shame only works in darkness. So turn the lights on. Let's say someone says, wow, I guess we're not enough for you anymore. You respond calmly, I care about you, but I'm allowed to take care of myself too. You refuse the shame without returning it. Or, if you're being blamed unfairly at work, let's separate feelings from facts. What part of the outcome are we actually discussing? That's called intellectualizing, stepping above the emotional fog to get clear. And if someone tries to guilt you into silence, remember, setting boundaries is not cruelty. Saying no is not betrayal. You're not here to carry everyone else's discomfort. The faces might be different. The words change. But if you've been paying attention, the pattern doesn't. One person silences, another belittles, a third twists the rules, and somehow you're the one left doubting yourself. This isn't just about bad people. It's about a system, a playbook, used by bosses, classmates, even family. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes without knowing, but always with the same result. They win by making you feel smaller. And here's the truth. No one tells you. These tactics only work when they're invisible. Once you see them, they lose their power. So don't just watch. Stay awake. Call them out. Call them what they are. Comment your experience. Share the signal. And if you want more videos that decode the quiet ways power hides, subscribe, because we're not done yet.